Good afternoon from San Francisco, show number 677 for Tuesday, the 16th of January, 2024. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Of course, my co-host is here. Her name is...
Julia Whittakin.
Julia, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club. We are, as usual, in Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. And thank you for joining us in what is a very newsy show. And a lot of comments already coming in here. I see Bing Bong is on, right, Julia?
Yep.
He is on it. Bing Bong is saying, free the homie Ian. We're going to talk about Ian Walker. He ain't doing nothing wrong. We know who Bing Bong is, so we'll let him go behind his, at least for the moment, we'll let him go behind his pseudonym. Pedro Foiling Sailor, I am watching in stereo using two devices. Oh, God forbid. Peter Stevenson down in Sydney. John Hanfield, hello from snowy Newport. We have to send John Hanfield up and shake some sense into the Crutonic U.S. Sailing. We're going to talk about that as well. News breaking just before the show. Gordon Smith, we got a comment from him in the show today. Gordon saying hi from Denmark. Thierry de Jong down in SoCal. Donna Walker. Nice to have you with us, Donna, or is it one of the other walkers? Peter Taylor is, greetings from Escape Flights. What's that mean? New York City. Yeah, it's cold in New England.
Yeah, they're trying to get out.
Oh, they are? Two different perspectives. Greetings from New York City, indeed, Peter Taylor. Clark Chapin, I spoke to Clark earlier today from Plymouth, Michigan. Jody Shields, hello from a little town called Wanji Wanji. They've just had the ACAT Nationals. I think it was the Aussie Nats. A lot of boats, great regatta. We've got some photos, but didn't have time to get them in the show. Jody will do that on Friday. Joe Cool's here. He made it on time. Bipolar Pete here, watch, on two devices. Rick Banner, yeah, it's a crazy week in sailing. Oh, wait, it's only Tuesday.
I know.
Oh, God. In Melbourne, Australia, Chris Fury's at it, where it's raining again towards the end of their summer. Mm-hmm. Jeff Kitson also in Michigan, where it is frigid. Well, the whole northeast and all the northern part of this country, in fact, is cold indeed. Tom Fishbeck's in Big Bear, which is a nice resort area here in California, the Chili Cabina. Jay Rendell, I've been talking with Jay this morning. He's up in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, where it's also damn cold. He's helped me put together a nice segment on our 470 team that has won the trials and needs now to win the right for the U.S. to go.
Oh, good.
So hopefully we will get, hopefully they'll get that right to do it. And they've got to go to the Worlds now and qualify the country, not their team, because they've now won the right to represent the U.S. And I'm not going to have time to put that segment in with this breaking news from U.S. Sailing. We'll put that in, Jay, on Friday's show and spend some quality time with that. Graham Sweeney is freezing. Talking about guys that are cold, Julia. Graham Sweeney is cold up in the Shetland Islands. I don't know how he does it in his house with very little heat, but
they've learned how to do that.
He's hanging in there. Well, they got energy problems. Gold Coast in Australia doesn't have energy problems. They're in great shape down there. Beautiful part of the world. I'd like to get back. Learn how to sail a boat. I don't know who that is. Guy Briere, don't call me Guy. Guy Briere, greetings from frozen New Orleans. And he has also prepared a segment about a guy who's just passed away. We're going to do that on Friday as well. Ed Worley has prepared a segment with his latest America's Cup trivia question, the Posey Challenge, and we'll run that on Friday too. Hello, Thomas Brennan, Steve Adkins. Facebook didn't give me a heads up on YouTube. Well, welcome, Commodore Adkins, and on to Ted Ryman in Cape Town, Julie Ahrens, where it's only 10 degrees Fahrenheit in Cleveland, sunny but freezing. Jen Dunbar, the esteemed Jen Dunbar over in Marin, a longtime friend, and Julie, a friend of yours.
Absolutely.
A senior series member at St. Francis Yacht Club.
Indeed she is.
Timothy Rossi. Hello, Timmy. He has done well. He's just won another event, match racing event in Europe. And he's saying hi. I pinged him this morning. He a Gov Cup alum.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's aged out or not. We'll have to ask Andy Rose, or maybe Timothy will put that in the comments, whether he's eligible to come back. I'm sure they'll choose him if he is. He's just burning up the match racing world. Yeah. Timothy from France, and doing a marvelous job. Speaking of all this cold weather, Julia, do you know this scene over the weekend? This was actually from yesterday.
Yes.
That is Highmark Stadium in Buffalo, New York. Yesterday, they were supposed to run one of the NFL playoff games there. Not one, I mean, a big game was to be run there on, I guess, Sunday, and they postponed. Yesterday was a holiday here in the States, Martin Luther King, the holiday celebrating the late, great Reverend King, and also the civil rights activist and hugely successful and highly respected civil rights activist, Martin Luther King, MLK. So that was a bit of a holiday here for at least federal employees and others. And they ran a couple of NFL National Football League playoff games, one of which was to be Sunday in this stadium in Buffalo. But it was too snowy and too cold, so they postponed it to yesterday afternoon. Meantime, they had to bail. They had to get the shovels out and clear the snow, not only off the field, but out of the stands, which they did by offering fans $20 to come clear with it. Bring your snow shovel and help us clear out the stadium, which they did.
They did, yes.
They did.
That's the great thing.
I don't know how they did it, Julia, but they did. And that photo courtesy of CBS Sports. And here's a clip now from the local television station, WKBW, I think, in Buffalo, which is a great sailing town, by the way. William Sangmeister, great sailing town. And look at this clip about these Buffalo fans from yesterday.
We knew we had to help the team. Just helping out, trying to get this game going. We can't have any more delays. We got to beat them Steelers.
For the Mafia, baby, that's what I'm talking about.
It's what Ralph would want.
It was fun. We had snowball fights. Sure. You know, the stairwells, the stands. It was a good experience. I loved it.
That's right. Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills. Woo! Go Bills, baby.
And Julia, you know who won the game?
Yes.
The Bills won.
Yes.
And maybe they had an advantage playing on their home turf.
I gotta be advantage.
And you see Hank Stewart on here, who's in Rochester, New York, also in the snow belt. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But Rochester, New York, and that whole south shore of Lake Erie, the west coast of the state of Michigan, the east shore of Lake Michigan, the snow belt. We talk about it. But that's a clip from WKBW ABC 7 in Buffalo, New York. And the Buffalo Bills did beat the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. Smashed them, actually.
Right.
Let's talk about this just for a minute, the lake effect snow. And you see the Great Lakes, my part of the world, Clark Chapin's there, and Paul Henderson sent me a note this morning bragging about how Toronto on the north side of the lake doesn't get much snow. Hank Stewart is here on the south shore of Lake Ontario, in Rochester, New York, and Rochester gets a lot of snow. Buffalo at the eastern end of Lake Erie and south of Lake Ontario, they just get dumped on all winter long. This cold air comes across the lakes, and if and until the lakes freeze, which doesn't normally happen except up here, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan sometimes freeze, that lifts all the moisture up and dumps the snow on the south shore of Lake Erie, the south shore of Lake Ontario, and Toronto, where Paul Henderson is, sent me a note this morning, and indeed to some of you, saying, well, we don't get much snow here. We don't get much snow here in Toronto at all. It's just cold. Well, Buffalo got all that snow. Cleveland, where down here where Julie is, and she gets a lot of snow as well, this whole part. Not so much here in southeastern Michigan where I grew up, where Clark Chapin is, but over here on this side of Michigan, they get a lot of lake effect snow as the breeze normally out of the northwest or the west blows across the lakes, lifts the moisture, and then dumps it on the warmer land. A colder land, actually. The colder land. The water is somewhat warmer than the land. So that's a brief explanation of the lake effect snow. Chicago gets a little bit of that, depending upon the wind direction, but they get cold like they do up in Wisconsin, Minnesota. That was the scene yesterday at a Tesla charging station in Chicago. And, you know, Julia, they can't move these electric cars, these EVs, as they call them, electric vehicles. The dealers can't sell them. Mm-hmm. People have range anxiety.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I would.
Because they're worried about the car. Maybe I can. They're worried about the cars freezing up now. That's not just range anxiety. And the Tesla stations, those are all in that frame there. Those are cars that have been abandoned because it's too cold to get the things charged and get them going. So I don't know about this EV thing. I'm sure big picture, long term, they will get some of that to work. That from USA Today yesterday. Now, speaking of Wisconsin and Minnesota, we go up to this nice photo from this morning from our Fozy Jay Rendell. And Jay, as I said, was helping me prepare a segment on some of our Olympians here in the U.S., and we'll do that segment on Friday. But that is the esteemed White Bear Lake, Wayzata Yacht Club, White Bear Yacht Club in Minnesota. And that's a shot by Jay from this morning, where they had a wind chill advisory until this afternoon, remains in effect. What? Very cold wind chills as low as 28 below Fahrenheit. You wimps in Europe, that's not Celsius, that's Fahrenheit, where portions of east central Minnesota, in Minnesota and beyond. So that today at White Bear Lake, courtesy of Jay Rendell, our Fozy, from up in that neck of the woods. One last cold weather note. Do you know how you clear your windshield, Julia? Do you know how you clear your windshield in Minnesota or Wisconsin, or when you come out of the hockey rink and you have forgotten to bring your scraper, your windshield scraper, and get the frost off your windshield? Mm-hmm. Well, we can show you how to do that too. See that? This is a guy in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He's got both of his skates, his hockey skates. One's still covered with the protection there in red, but the other one is. And I admit to having done that myself. Where's the scraper? And no one else is out there in the parking lot, so you take your skates out of the bag and scrape with it.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't grow up having to do that.
That's the worst thing about the winter is clearing your car. And if you have a garage, great. If you don't, you got to go out there in the morning and clear it. Start the car, get it warmed up inside, and scrape the frost or more off the windshield. And and people do stupid things. They'll go out and they'll clear a little hole so they can peek through it, and then they hope, the car will drive, and hope that the inside of the car will warm up and it'll start to defrost. It'll warm the windows up, that then will defrost the outside of the windows, which it may or may not do. And you're driving around trying to look through a porthole instead of having a safety vision around you.
Oh, yes.
That's how they do it in Minnesota, and I have to admit I've done that in Michigan. Thanks, Jay Rendell, for sending that as well. Finally, a little social commentary here from another Fozy. Rick Manero is saying, it's so cold, this used to be a full-size screwdriver.
Ah, yes.
The gentleman here on the show will appreciate that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Paul Humchick saying covered stadia are useful in the north and south. It's amazing that Buffalo Stadium still is not covered. They've got about the worst weather in the country for this time of year, at least, for football. Jody Shields, maybe SailGP could offer fans $20 to bring fans to their events. Talking about social commentary on that dreadfully slow event in, no surprise, in Abu Dhabi. Stingray, the big snowman they built and named for MLK, was spectacular. Yes, it was.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was in the news this morning. It was so cold that the cars would not charge at Burling.
I know. And that should be no surprise.
Julie Aaron's lake effect hits me hard. She there in Cleveland. I am at the high spots where the snowiest Connies. What are the Connies?
I don't know.
Meet. Wind chill here is -5 Fahrenheit. Okay, Buffalo is the worst for snow, Julie is saying, and she is indeed correct. And that screwdriver, just the thought of that makes me shrivel up. We had the start of the presidential elections, and we talked about 2024 on the last show and how it's the Olympic year, it's the America's Cup year. We get other stuff, the Vendée, we got other stuff going on. But we've also got the presidential primary season is well and truly with us, as yesterday was the first one. The caucuses in Iowa won handily by the former president. He really blew away the rest of the field. He got more than 50% of the vote. Next one is in New Hampshire, but we're not going to cover this too extensively because it looks like the primary season is probably already over, right, Julia? We're going to have probably Mr. Trump back against Mr. Biden, two old farts, back running. It's going to be a reprise of the election 2016. Is that right?
It looks that way now.
And 2020. I mean, I just, those of you outside of the U.S. are shaking your heads, and a lot of us are. I just won political, speaking of political, rather than putting this in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, I thought I'd put this, Fox scaring sheep in 1820. Fox News Network scaring sheep here in the U.S. in 2023. Do you agree with that cartoon, Julia? Huh?
Depends.
You do agree with it?
Well, yeah.
You're a big Fox News watcher, aren't you, and supporter?
I am.
Ed Worley likes that one. I think he's a bit of a Fox News supporter, too. Free Ian Williams. That's the clarion call today, and that gets us into this next story. We covered this again on Friday. We got to do an update to this because there's crutonicism afoot down in our at our favorite, one of our favorite yacht clubs in the world, Long Beach Yacht Club, in their lineup for the 59th Congressional Cup. We announced that on Friday after their press release came out, telling you that they had chosen 8 highly ranked, at least in the top 40, including Gavin Brady, 8 skippers to come for this next Congressional Cup in April, plus the 2 qualifiers from the Ficker Cup, which is a preliminary regatta run by Long Beach Yacht Club the week before Congressional Cup, and some American and other, I guess mostly American sailors, are eligible to sail in that event, and they fill those last 2 spots. It's a bit of a yawner, as some people, John Sangmeister and others of you have mentioned, because when you take the top 2 teams from Ficker Cup, you get into the finals, and you got the 2 teams in the finals, and they both know they're going forward. So, you know, match racing, there normally is no second. So it's a bit of a quandary, because we also told you, those, by the way, are the rankings from World Sailing as of the 1st of January. That is the rankings that are next to those names. But where, you will ask, is the current world champion and 7-time world champion and several-time, I don't know how many times he's won the Congressional Cup, Ian Williams, about whom all these comments are being made. Brendan Larrabee says, oh, it's just a ploy to get Ian Williams to sail the Ficker Cup. Ian Williams should not have to sail in the Ficker Cup. He ought to get an invite. And yeah, I think Gavin Brady in that list of top 8 deserves an invite, and most of the others do as well. So there's got to be a solution. Chris Poole has been invited. He tops the list, top seed, arguably the correct top seed, because he went undefeated in 2023. And that was mistakenly reported at the time. We have cleared that up because, thanks to Peter McDonald and Dion Ficker McDonald, pointed out that Dion's dad, Ficker is quicker, not fast as fun. Ficker is quicker.
Yep.
Bill Ficker went undefeated in one of the Congressional Cups in the early 70s when it was just a straight round robin. But Chris Poole actually bettered that by not only winning all of his double round robin races, but then his semifinals and finals, And every match he won, including his final. So bravo Zulu to Chris from last year. He's back and back on top. But NBZ, Negat Bravo Zulu, to Long Beach Yacht Club for not putting Ian Williams into the mix, figuring out a way to do that. They should have. Now, okay, we learned that this World Championship, last World Championship, was in December, and for some reason Long Beach Yacht Club already had sent the invitations out in early December for a regatta that's in April. Okay, they could have maybe held out a couple. As Andy Rose and the gang do down at Gov Cup, they'll say, we're going to hang out here a couple more, we're still waiting, yada, yada. And that's fine, you can do that. So where is Ian Williams from GBR, who is the current world match racing champion? Why didn't they invite him? Well, we got an explanation from our Fozy James Pleasance, who sent this in before Friday's show, and he said invites were locked in before the China final that James Pleasance, ran, the WMRT, and based on the 1 November World Sailing Rankings, which is what they used to send out
The
invitations. Thank you, Julia. It just, it's ancient history. Ian had only done 2 events to that point. He is entered to the Ficker Cup, big deal, and will be able to get through to Con Cup by placing in the top 2. But James agrees that it would be good to have him at Con Cup, and indeed it would be, he should be. Now, yeah, John Schaefer is saying there needs to be a space open for the gap between the events. Spot on, John. Exactly right. Mm-hmm. John Hanfield of Long Beach Yacht Club and U.S. Sailing sat in a room and said, how can we get negative coverage for this event? Yeah, he should get an invite. Yeah, Brendan Larrabee agrees. So I went to look at the club's website because one hears there's turmoil within the club, that there are at least 2 different camps trying to figure out what to do. And despite them having announced last week that list that we've shown you previously, here a few slides ago, on their website, that's a screen grab from this morning. They still have not posted.
Really?
Still have not posted the invited skippers.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Yesterday, I think it was, on my Facebook page, I posted this pithy 2-sentence comment. Long Beach Yacht Club didn't invite Ian Williams, correct or Croutonic, and within an hour, I was flooded with comments supporting this Negat Bravo Zulu, this Croutonicism. And then, in fact, people asked, so many people commented, there were people who were asking, what does Croutonic mean? Obviously not Fozy.
Well, that's one way to introduce him.
So I that was on my Facebook yesterday, and I just, virtually every comment was negative, was saying, yes, Ian, of course he should have gotten an invitation. They should figure out a way to do it. We're going to offer a solution here, a couple solutions in a moment. Gordon Smith pretty well wrapped it up. Gordon Arfosi in Denmark, and longtime fan of match racing and very smart fellow, said Long Beach has diminished the status of their event by not inviting the current match racing tour and also the world champion, not just the tour champion, Ian Williams. He has more than earned his place at this event. To be perfectly honest, it is an embarrassment. Mm-hmm. Even regarding his recent win, exactly how many times does he have to beat everyone else to get an entry? Really poor judgment. I bet that the Long Beach Yacht Club have zero plans for legacy investment after the Olympic sailing events are held there. Why? Because no one seems to want to execute on the follow-up. Long Beach Yacht Club, you are not looking to, I think he meant TOO great, at this point. Spot on, Gordon. Spot on. And that was, I mean, there were literally dozens, if not by now, over 100 comments from people saying, Croutonic. And I had to also explain Croutonicism.
Right. Well, now more people know.
Well, we got to get somebody to use that word. Somebody famously in the media to use, that's Crouton. And what, okay, so what is it? It's a mild, all you hockey players should know this. It's a mild pejorative, a French-Canadian, it really exists. A mild French-Canadian pejorative. You crouton. Where's back here? That's, you all keep, don't send us any more croutons.
No.
Those are from Darlene Hines. Those are from Pedro Foiling Sailor. They're old by now, but someday we're going to open them up and see if they're still crunchy. You crouton! And from that, I think I invented the word croutonic and croutonicism. We got an adjective, and we've got, what's an ism? What's that?
Yes.
What's that grammar? What
I
is
don't
that?
know. Oh,
Come
it's
on,
a-
you went to Stanford. You're supposed to know
a
those
useful
things.
phrase.
No, it's a useful phrase. It's what is that type of word? What's the word I want?
I don't know.
Croutonicism. It's an ism like racism or sexism or, God forbid, ageism.
Uh-oh.
Sangmeister has a solution, and I wholeheartedly support him. He's saying, look, he's saying this to Long Beach Yacht Club, if you're having trouble expanding the round robin to 12 competitors, which they can do, they should be able to do that. They've got the boats. Okay, they'd lose a spare boat, and you'd have to jockey some people around, so it's not an ideal solution.
Yeah.
But they could do that. They could say, okay, they could even go to 11. Again, not ideal, but you could.
Yeah.
11 boats. But John suggests if you can't see your way clear to do that for spare boat reasons or worried about people beating the boats up and needing a spare boat, there is no drama in the Ficker Cup, that elimination event we keep talking about, because the top two boats already know who is going to advance to the Congressional Cup, and there really isn't any great prize in winning the secondary regatta. It's like watching the NFL play touch football. It's like kissing your proverbial cousin. I always found some fun in kissing my cousins. Huh?
Yes.
You ever kiss your cousins?
I don't have any cousins.
Oh, you don't? Well, then you probably never kissed them.
I probably never have.
Comments. Tom, really, what club doesn't have turmoil? Every time there are non-sailors making decisions for sailors, the turd sandwiches are served. Captain Jack, John Schaefer.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Hi, Don Lunabos up in Sonoma. Hanfield's got a lot of cogent comments here. Why only 10 spots? Well, that's a good question because they've only got, 11 boats or 12 boats, I guess, Larry Kennedy? I don't know. Okay. No, Ted Ryman, I'm not going to read your comment. So please, Long Beach Yacht Club, take these 10 teams, 8 teams really, and expand them to 10, and then take one more from the Ficker if you have to. Change it from 2 to 1, then you still have a spare boat. I think they have a dozen boats. But figure it out. Get Ian an invite, because if he comes over there, you could get eliminated. You could have a foul. You could have you could have light air, and that could be strange. He probably would qualify. And there's some argument to say, well, he gets more practice by coming and sailing in the Ficker Cup. Yeah. He also gets worn down.
Yeah.
The team gets kind of worn out, and no, I don't think a Ficker Cup winner has ever gone on to win Congressional Cup.
Is that so?
I'm pretty sure. It's like the winner of the Louis Vuitton Cup.
Yeah.
Has only once. Do you know what year? Gone on to win the America's Cup?
Probably 83.
Alinghi.
Oh, Lingy.
Alinghi. Won the Challenger Selection Series, won the Louis Vuitton Cup.
That's right.
And went on to win the America's Cup on their first attempt. Rick Rundle says it's croutonic. I had a freshman world history teacher ask someone in class, now I ask you, is something more Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal? Okay. He taught before us at Boys Town. He played handball, and I was okay. Hello, Denise Balzac. She is a bright lady down in the Caribbean. If you invite Ian Williams, you have to invite Taylor Canfield, both tied at 5 Congos. I agree. Where's Taylor Canfield's invite? Maybe he can't come. Taylor's a bit busy with other things.
He is.
John Hanfield's 1895. No, Alinghi won in 03. Right? Alinghi won in 03. Okay, so expand to 12 or drop one qualifier from the Ficker and get on with getting those
That seems the simplest solution.
Nice that everybody wants to be invited to Congressional Cup. It is the granddaddy or the grandmammy of them all.
Right.
And, get on with it. Come on, folks. Now, one last comment. talking about doing the right thing. The world's top match racing skippers, they say on the website, I also noticed this when I went to get that other screen grab. The world's top match racing skippers returned to Long Beach April 24 to 28 for the 59th Congressional Cup. This World Championship Regatta presented by Long Beach is a premier event on the prestigious World Match Racing Tour. How can it be the top event if you don't invite the current world champion and not to make him qualify? You're gonna invite one of these top tennis players to go qualify for Wimbledon, go there. Oh, sorry, you didn't get vaxxed, or you didn't do this or that. Excuse me. LBC, LBYC, do the right thing. Do the correct thing. Don't be croutonic. Invite Ian into one of the slots, right?
Yeah.
Right, Julia?
Absolutely.
There he is winning the world championship in China last month. Do the right thing. Invite Ian. I had one other comment from a Fozy that I thought I ought to put in here too. And this was from Rich Fishbeck, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is making my croutons crumble. I don't know where he got that.
Oh.
Huh?
Yeah, you need one of those.
Oh, this is making my croutons crumble. That was not Rich Fish, Tom Fishbeck. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom Fishbeck. Okay. You like that?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, but I don't want to idolize it.
Well, not too much. Okay, Julia, what are we celebrating today? There's your clue.
Uh-huh.
What are we celebrating today? The 16th of January.
Be careful to measure everything.
What are those foods there? Peppers and... It is, believe it or not, International Hot and Spicy Food Day.
I was going to say, it looks like Mexican food.
Experience a flavor explosion that will make your taste buds dance with joy. Get ready for a culinary, do you say culinary or culinary?
Culinary.
Culinary adventure that will spice up your culinary life. Gordon Smith saying, is that adequate soup spoon day? No, it's International Hot and Spicy Food. There really is such a thing, and it's quite widely celebrated. I'm not a huge fan. Are you? Of hot and spicy foods?
Yes, but I'm not the spiciest. I'm sort of mid-spicy.
I don't know. Every time you order Chinese food,
Yeah.
and invite us up,
Yeah.
it's all too spicy for me. I'm not a big spicy food fan.
You don't even eat garlic.
Well, garlic's good for you, so you got to have a little bit of garlic. But hot and spicy food has been traced back to recipes that are as old as 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time ago. Yes, it is. While the dishes that we enjoy today may have changed, there is no denying that we still love, and most people do.
Yep.
A couple of these television shows where they take wings, barbecue wings, and keep getting spicier and spicier until people literally throw up or pass out. Not only has spicy food been adored for so long because it tastes incredible, well, I'd argue, but also because it offers a number of different health benefits as well. Okay.
It does.
And why are spicy foods so popular in hot weather? Hot countries with hot weather. Mexico,
Yeah.
India, Spain, because?
Well, two reasons. One is that sometimes meat is suspect and can spoil easier in hot weather.
And the spices help the meat? Really? I didn't know that.
No, well, yeah, to help you digest it.
Oh, digest the bad meat.
Yeah, if it has to be. Yeah. And it's maybe an acquired taste, but it really is a good
It
taste.
does make you feel cooler, though. If you eat some spicy
Yes.
food and you're really hot and it's hot and humid and so on, it does help to cool you off a little bit.
Yeah.
Gordon Smith says curry, not fish and chips or pizza, is the #1 takeaway food in the UK. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Graham Sweeney says it doesn't fix the poor meat if it's rancid or rotten or croutonic. It
No.
just makes poor meat taste better.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Graham right now said I could keep. He's bundled up in warm clothes, a bathrobe, a sleeping bag. He's just trying to keep warm there. They've got waiting for hell to freeze over, I guess, up there in Yell in Scotland. We're not waiting for hell to freeze over here. It's a typical 55, 60-degree day in San Francisco, and we are appreciative to all of you who support us. Got a couple new ones this week.
Great.
And we're doing the list. We're going to list all of our patrons via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And it was an interesting algorithm. A couple of them one of them said, I figured out how much I spend to read the world's greatest sailing magazine, Seahorse Magazine, the RORC's magazine.
Yeah.
It cost me roughly $100 a year to get that subscription. So I'm going to spend $100 a year on Sailing Illustrated and give you guys $8 a month,
How lovely.
which works out to $96 or something.
Perfect.
I thought that was very nice, very kind, very much appreciated.
Yes.
Hey, Tom, just had Sarah Lee win the 16-foot skiff nationals for the first time. Wow. Andrew Dolly DeVola, the first time a female has won in 102 years. I will send you some links. And thank you, Andrew. We shall cover that on Friday's show.
Nice.
Gordon Smith, following Graham, yell is finally freezing over. Huh?
That's a great one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Bravo Zulu to Pete Burling and his team, because they did win, as probably most of you know, in that, sadly, I mean, it was really light. It was painfully light. That's 2 painfully light regattas in a row in the Middle East, in the UAE, Dubai, and then in Abu Dhabi this past weekend. But Bravo Zulu to the Kiwis. They've now won 2 in a row. That, of course, Pete Burling and co. And they must be light air wizards, and maybe as much so as Tom Slingsby and the Aussies are breeze-on wizards. And this was the final call in the final race, just for
and they have been
recap.
Diego Bortin's round, but it's the Kiwis look set to bring it home.
So in the final at Abu Dhabi, it is New Zealand. It is Peter Burling and crew that come across the line. That's 2 event wins in a row. The Kiwis take top honors in the UAE.
And I'm going to play now the recap from both day 1 and day 2, but look at a couple comments. There's one more here from Rick Rundle. I used to move meat. He was a meat packer, meat seller. And when the meat was turning the corner, we would unload it to the smokehouse.
Yeah. Well, ships at sea
Yeah.
just hung the meat in the below below
Well,
deck.
but it was salted too, right?
Not necessarily.
No,
No.
it wasn't.
No.
You're not that old to know that.
But I'm married to somebody who was.
Your late great ship captain husband, Conrad.
Yeah. They just scraped the
Do that
mold.
again.
It's just scraped the mold off.
Oh,
of it.
that's not a finger wave. That's another. We got another motion here from Julia. It makes that little screwdriver come alive. Oh, excuse me. I couldn't help myself. You give me a finger wave. Do you remember the late great Johnny Carson on who for 30 years ruled the late night television here on NBC in this country? And they must have set the joke up, but he had Arnold Palmer, the great golfer's wife, on the show. And she said, yeah, before a golf tournament, I do magic. Did you ever see this? I should dig this up. And he said, well, do you do anything special for your husband for good luck before a golf tournament? She said, yeah, I polish his balls. She's,
I know.
That's okay.
Very nice wifely duty.
And Carson, without missing a beat, said, I'll bet you that makes his putter stand on end. On network television. And it didn't get beeped.
Well,
This won't get beeped either. Jeff Kitson saying, wallowing light air, non-foiling, H1 and HD. The big wings on, and they're trying to get their windward hulls up. As exciting as F1 cars racing at riding lawn mower speeds on elementary school bike paths. That's pretty good, Jeff.
oh, that is a good one.
He's the master of the metaphor here.
Yes.
Hanfield saying it was like watching an F1 race where all the cars only had 4 gears. Stingray, who is a big SailGP fan, going into the final, the USA and Canfield were leading on the event scoreboard. Amazing. Yes, that is. He did well in his second go as skipper and part owner, I guess. Julia is pulling pints.
Not yet.
Milking the cow, Julie Aaron said you were doing. Is that what you were doing? Milking the cow.
Well, I've done that.
Can you hear the excitement in the commentator's voice that the Kiwis won? Jody Shields was saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is video, the highlights video from day one. Remember, it's 2 days of racing, fleet racing day one, and then a couple more fleet races, 3 fleet races day one normally, 2 fleet races day two, and then a top 3 teams go into a winner-take-all. It's not really a match race. It's what the late, great Paul Elstrom would have called 3-boat racing.
Yeah.
Triple boat racing. What, Gordon Smith, help me. He called it something else. But watch this video in the meantime.
Oh, it's New Zealand. Brilliant acceleration from the Kiwis. They've jumped off that start line. Look at them stretch away, Todd. They're in clear wind. They've probably got 3-4 kilometres an hour more wind. That's going to be potentially 6-7 kilometres an hour more boat speed. Canada up to second here, Todd. That's a great move from a mid-pack position to get themselves up into second.
Peter Burling and company will move on, and they will claim race number 1 of the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Sail Grand Prix. And it is Canada that will take second place.
Oh, Todd,
and
it's a penalty.
comes on.
Wow. Good start there. Germany, USA and Denmark. Denmark are already hull up. USA are hull in the air. And USA and Denmark should be in good shape from here. And here we go. Taylor Canfield, USA. Keep it simple, stupid. Turns right. Going to stay in clear wind. To the right of your screen, where Spain are turning now, they're going to have to sail back through the disturbed wind. Right of way at the moment sits with USA. But can they get around the outside of the USA? Massive moment for the US team here. And look at that gap. That is not a Phil Robertson-sized gap.
It will be Spain that will pick up the victory here. The USA will come into second, which is a great finish for them.
New Zealand are in the optimum position if they can accelerate in the middle, though. They're going to have less distance to sail, and they've got a chance to be on the inside. I like where Spain are at the minute, Todd. They've accelerated so well, and they're on the inside. They own the corner as they get to Mark 1. Spain have split the course. They're trying to keep it simple out there. They look to turn inside. They block New Zealand off. Great move by Diego Botín. He's really thought that one out there.
The move of the match coming on the penultimate leg as Spain gets the win again in race 3.
Yeah, the commentators sadly are still Crutonic. Brilliant acceleration. You're all making comments about it. It's, you know, this, especially when the game is proceeding at kind of golf speed.
Yes.
You don't hear golf commentators, oh, he's up to the tee now, he's on the green, he's on the first green, and oh, he's addressing the tee, and he's got a brilliant swing back, and he swung the thing really hard, and look at the ball accelerate off the... I mean, excuse me. This is tennis.
Yeah.
This is golf. This is an elegant sport. Oh, man.
But not...
The attraction of these boats is all about foiling and speed. Venues need to be scheduled where it is reasonably expected to have foiling wind. Locations that do not have realistic foiling winds should be dropped. Follow the money, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I love multi-hulls, and having been a sailor owner of many multi-hulls, cats, and tries for over 50 years, but these machines capable of 60 to 100K, wallowing around in H1 and H2 mode are borderline boring even for me.
Mm-hmm.
Graham Sweeney saying, this isn't my sport, it's not sailing. Stingray saying, nice, Tom, you would make a great SailGP commentator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the day 2 video. You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
It's carnage on the start line.
Carnage!
Nearly the whole fleet over the line.
And Australia may emerge as the real winners here at mark number 1.
Really nice gains by the US here. They're moving up.
Ooh, and Canada makes contact.
This is huge news for the US team. If they can hold on to this position, this will put them in first place overall on the leaderboard going into the final race.
The win in race number 4 goes the way of the Australians.
Oh no, he's got to drop to the back of the pack. Germany and Spain are going to be first at Mark 1. What an opportunity for Spain, Germany and USA. USA, they're in great shape. I like this decision by Taylor Canfield. Split away from Spain and Germany.
Currently, this will see the Kiwis, Americans, and Spanish through.
It is Spain that come across the line. They win race number 5.
The real battle is Canada and New Zealand. New Zealand look like they're just going to hang in there. Are they going to get there?
Yeah, by a boat length.
Oh, my word. For the final in here in Abu Dhabi, and the Kiwis are fastest at the gun, but can they roll over the top of the US to Mark 1?
Burling and the Kiwis with a master class in patience as they approach mark number 1 here at the event final in Abu Dhabi.
So Burling in complete control of the Spanish right now, but Canfield, he's on a wing and a prayer opportunity for the US boat if they can find more wind. Spanish have forced the USA to sail wider. Good news for USA up to second, though.
So in the final at Abu Dhabi, it is New Zealand. That's 2 event wins in a row. The Kiwis take top honors in the UAE.
Okay. Well, bravo zulu to the Kiwis. I can't diminish that at all, but the light air is crutonic, and running events where you know it's likely to be, if not almost certainly to be light, is doubly crutonic. And guess where the final event is going to be for the next X many years? What, Stingray? What they announced, was it 3 years? Some number of years now, the final event, which heretofore has been here in San Francisco. Okay, we had a light race here in San Francisco, but it's too early in the year. You got to race these events where there's going to be some breeze, like there probably will be in Australia next month in February at the height of their summer. I mean, it's not just for these events; it's for our sport. But follow the proverbial money.
Yeah.
These legs are shorter than an Oompa Loompa. You know what an Oompa Loompa was?
No.
Oompa Loompas were in, remember the movie, The Wizard of Oz?
Oh.
No, Oompa Loompas. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Bring it to Chicago. Well, Rick, you know, Chicago's also can be a little light. Clark Chapin, got to go and get my phone back from the repair shop. Okay, Clark. Who were all the guys in their white pajamas at the awards ceremony? Philip Laughlin saying. Okay, Pedro Foiling Sailor says he doesn't have to go look for the replays on YouTube. Yeah, I think RC announced that Abu Dhabi will be the finals venue for 5 years. Stingray is saying. Oh, man.
Is there a time of year when Abu Dhabi is windy?
No. No, there's just not much of a sea breeze there because the land and water are both very hot. And you need a temperature differential.
Right.
You know, you'll get some wind, sometimes a windstorm off the desert. I've been there. When you get a windstorm off the desert.
Yeah.
And you're not going to sail then.
No.
You're going to put your turban on and wrap it around your face and go inside in the aircon. You got to go in the aircon anyway. Yeah, there were several comments about why don't we run our sport place where there's in countries where it's interesting for the spectators, where there's wind, follow the money. Sorry to say it. Now, what happened to Giles Scott? Because we did had a lot of talk about Giles Scott, and also about one or two others. And my prediction for who might do well in this event, it wasn't Giles. My prediction was Nathan Outeridge, and he did not do well either. We'll talk about that in a moment. In fact, surprisingly poorly. But he just back into it on the helm after a long break of coaching and advising and whatever else Nathan's been doing for other teams. But Giles Scott assumed the helm finally, finally Ben Ainsley got himself off the boat and put Giles in charge. And not one of the, Giles is not known as a big foiling bro, but he was on and didn't do particularly well. And here is an interview that I think is fairly eye-opening.
No room on Australia, room on Denmark.
We got room. Nathan? I can't turn the yacht in there.
No.
I can't get the yacht in there.
We're going to have to go past.
Protest here. Protest. We'd have hit them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's swing it.
Edge jibe. Spain got room back.
Do not go in there.
Got really good pressure. pressure here.
Copy. Okay, let's just settle down here. Looking for a clean one from here.
Right. Take you, Hen, please.
Okay, I thought I had an interview with Giles as part of that video, but obviously not. I like that idea of that video coming off their boat, obviously. And I'll find this video from Giles, this interview rather, with Giles, and we'll run it on Friday's show. In the what's a couple other comments here? It's not a yacht. Yeah, it is a yacht. I think Giles is right to call it a yacht. These are yachts. The Dutch, in the Dutch sense of the word. These boats are designed and tested in breeze to foil. Throw them into no breeze in a broom closet. No wonder some new. Yeah, and the television is not compelling, and people don't come back and watch it. That's the problem. If you run 2 regattas in a row where there's no wind, it's one thing to have the odd regatta where there's not going to be as much wind. It looks like the boats could not build enough momentum to even maneuver. That was true. If you watch the full videos, it was tough. Maura Stevens, SailGP in Halifax in June. We could get any type of weather, fog, rain, flat calm, or blowing a stiff breeze. It is in the hands of Mother Nature. Hanfield thinks we should always run the Super Bowl. That's the NFL's final game in Anchorage, Alaska. Let's go to the standings. That was the standings going into this regatta. There's been a bit of a shakeup here, as you will see. Comparing the two, you can see that obviously Australia is still on top, but Rockwell, Denmark has dropped down 2 places. The Kiwis are up now in second. The U.S. have come from 5th up to 3rd, so Taylor Canfield, Bravo Zulu 2U. Let's go back to the other slide. It's a little easier to see. And Spain, they're in the middle of the pack, 5th, 6th. Emirates GBR up a little bit. So actually, Giles Scott improved their position by 2, up from 33 points up to 43. Is that right? 41 points. Hold it. Hang on. Emirates GBR has dropped 2 places, Giles. Sorry. They were on 38 points in 4th place, and they're now down in 6th place on 41 points. And Canada slipped a bit too. So it's looking like the Kiwis and the Aussies are the teams to beat. I won't say again, but it looks like also Taylor Canfield is moving up into contention. So Bravo Zulu to him and his American team. Let's see how that goes at their next event, which will be in Sydney at the end of next month.
And for the
this
first
is the promo.
time in SailGP.
And yes, the prize pool is up to $7 million. Impressive. $2 million of it to the season final winner. So that's doubled. And that's venue money, no doubt, coming in and helping push this thing ahead. But, if the television doesn't improve in terms of the quality, in terms of the number of viewers, because they're just simply not getting many viewers, it's, I'd love to see them succeed. I like Stingray. I'm a big fan, and I hope Larry and Russell make this work. But it's an uphill battle, at least so far. Okay, now the breaking news from this morning that I don't quite yet know what to make of it, although it made my blood boil when I saw it, and I think I still am boiling, and that is this lawsuit that has been filed by U.S. Sailing against Paul Kayard, Bill Rue, and the America One Racing, America One Foundation, and also a coach named Leandro Spina. And this kind of upset my whole apple cart here getting this show put together. I had other segments that, frankly, I should have just taken this whole lawsuit and thrown it in the wastebasket and said, yeah, it's happening, we'll talk about it. But this is so upsetting and so important that we got to bring it to your attention. This came out just before we went to air. U.S. Sailing continues supporting athletes and following U.S. POC, and it's actually the U.S. OPC. They can't even get their headline right. Oh, man.
What does it
The
stand for?
USOPC, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee.
Okay.
This is how bad U.S. sailing is. Independent. This was a review from some time ago by our National Olympic Committee, which used to be USOC, U.S. Olympic Committee. Now it's the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And this committee, based in Colorado Springs, is in fact exerting more and more pressure on governing bodies. So, in fairness to U.S. sailing, they are feeling some heat from USO, and frankly, it's DEI type heat from USOPC. But they commissioned a review of this whole madness with Kayard et al. And they now, U.S. Sailing, based, they say, on that report, are seeking financial damages from those found to have harmed athletes. Okay, I'll give you just the facts, ma'am, and then we can discuss it. This is the leading paragraph from the release today. U.S. Sailing, the sport's national governing body, and the organization responsible for the U.S. Olympic sailing team, in its continued commitment to its athletes, has acted in response to the recently completed independent review by the USOPC, there they got it right, and filed a lawsuit against America One and 3 of its principals and employees for actions that have harmed and continue to harm athletes, the U.S. sailing team, and U.S. sailing. Okay, what first of all is America One? That was the foundation that sponsored the America One team in the 2000 America's Cup, Julia, which was your team from St. Francis Yacht Club. Paul Kayard led team. You gave money to America One. Right. I worked for America One to help try to win the cup back for St. Francis Yacht Club. That's what the America One Foundation was. It's now called America One Racing.
And because all the leftovers went to.
And the way these tax-exempt foundations are in the U.S., if they're set up as what we call a 501c3, people like Julia and her late great husband and others in and out of the club can make donations to the foundation, which are tax deductible from their gross income. So if Julia makes a couple $100,000 a year and she makes a $10,000 contribution to this foundation, her taxable income is reduced by $10,000. So instead of being taxed on $200,000, she's taxed on $190,000 in our complicated Crutonic tax code. And you can deduct other things like it. But this has been in the code for a long time, and it's to help support charitable institutions and causes, including sports. So America One is a 501c3. They get the people make the donations to it. They get they buy the boats, they buy the sails. They then afterwards sell that stuff, and they have a corpus. They have some money left over in the foundation, which they can use then for charitable purposes in line with their own charter. America One had all that gear after 2000, and guess to whom they sold it? You remember? Larry Ellison.
Yeah.
And Larry Ellison's team, which started campaigning for the Cup in 2003. And because by then I was with Ellison's team, we paid a big chunk of money to the America One Foundation and for those assets in bulk. And, usually it's a little here and a little there. Well, we just bought the whole thing, containers, sails, boats, whole lot of stuff. And America One then had $5+ million in a interest-bearing account, and they've been using it to help support Olympic athletes and other international sailors in this country since then, and doing a beautiful job.
Yes.
Well, this group also threw their weight behind Kayard when he became the Olympic guru here in the U.S., the coach, the executive director of Olympic sailing, whatever his title was. And they were funding a lot of different activities, including what Kayard was doing, helping Paul and helping to raise money from sponsors from other individuals, including this gentleman, Bill Rue, who was chairman of another foundation. He's a great sailor from San Diego, yada, yada. So long story short, when Kayard quit or was fired or both as executive director of U.S. Olympic Sailing, Kayard then said, okay, we're going to still have this foundation of ours because he's a trustee of the foundation. Doug Smith here from St. Francis Yacht Club is. Maybe Bill Rue is, maybe others. And they say, we're still got money. We're still going to support our Olympic athletes. And Leandro Spina, who's a terrific guy, coach, lives in Miami, South American by origin, is on his own time and with some support from America One going around and coaching people. Some other coaches are doing the same thing. And guess what? U.S. Sailing got jealous because they don't have any money. They are in dire financial straits by all accounts. Mm-hmm. So they said, you know what? We got to
stop this.
We got to stop this. They filed a lawsuit against, as you see here, America One, Bill Rue, Paul Kayard, and this coach, Leandro Spina. So that's what the background is here about America One and these three principals and employees supposedly harming and continuing to harm athletes, the U.S. sailing team, and U.S. sailing. No, it's not a fight about the donor list, Ed Worley. Everybody knows who the donors are, or at least the major donors, so it's not that kind of a fight. Now, I've gotten a hold of the lawsuit. Actually, they sent a link out, and I went and read the whole damn thing this morning. It's not that long, but look at this. They are asking for a jury trial. You see that, Julia?
Yes.
And what this is, see that? A jury trial demanded. This is going to cost U.S. Sailing boatloads of money, legal fees, their own. This is going to cause America One to spend boatloads of money to defend themselves, all of which could have been going to Olympic sailors.
Right.
Now, I suspect U.S. Sailing is expecting that America One will fold their proverbial tent and try to settle this out of court. Knowing Kayard, knowing Billy Rue, I doubt that is going to happen anytime soon. So Dwayne Collicott's asking, what do they claim is harm? Well, here in a nutshell from the lawsuit, the complaint is what they're claiming is the harm. Defendants have conspired together in a variety of wrongful, tortious, and duplicitous conduct, intentionally and maliciously designed and undertaken to, one, harm, if not destroy, U.S. Sailing's business and reputation with its donors and financial supporters, with competitive sailors and within the larger sailing community and the Olympic movement, and two, position America One misleadingly as the de facto and then eventual successor to U.S. Sailing as the de facto national governing body for the sport of sailing in the U.S.
What a good idea.
You said it, not me. That is not their idea. Their idea is to go out and help Olympic sailors.
Right.
U.S. Sailing is the national governing body, and it literally would take an act of Congress and the USOPC to displace U.S. Sailing as the NGB, as our National Olympic Committee. This is utter poppycock, in my not so humble opinion. So Morris Stevens is saying they might have to countersue and ask for costs. Exactly. I expect they will, and I don't know this. I haven't talked to any of them because, as I said, this came out just before we went to air. And how can people, I fully expect them, Maura, to countersue. And this is going to devolve down the gurgler, and it's going to cost millions of dollars in legal fees
and
that could have been going to sailors. Julia?
No, I just said that. It could have been going to sailors.
Ed Worley, how can people donate money, dollars, to help with the legal fees to support Paul? Well, I think probably America One, but let's see what's going on with all that. I don't want to get into that. I wanted to give you the background. You can tell I'm upset about it. And then let's see where the facts lead us, because Rick Rundle's saying it is a BS on rye. Gordon Smith, but the athletes are free to choose from whence they receive help. Exactly, Gordon. And if America One wants to provide help and wants to provide coaching and wants to provide money, more power on. I mean, if I were running U.S. Sailing, which I used to do, we would say, okay, you, America One, we can't agree with having Paul Kayard do this, but, you know, we'd love to have you go out and support our athletes. But you know what? As you see in the lawsuit, it's a control and authority problem from the non-sailing CEO, and whoever else is involved on the executive committee, we're in charge here. We're in charge here. We're the NGB. And this other group is trying to knock us out of the box. When they, in fact, don't have any money to even pay their staff of 50, apparently. They're in deep financial strife, or so one hears. But wait, there's more. In this action, U.S. Sailing seeks judgment against each defendant and 1, recovery of its damages, which are in excess of $5 million, plus 2, punitive damages, exemplary damages, and reimbursement of attorney's fees and costs incurred by U.S. Sailing in this action, all of which are available in proper remedies under U.S. Sailing's various legal claims. And injunctive relief against each of the defendants, they want to enjoin them and get an injunction, a restraining order, against each of the defendants, directing them to cease their wrongful conduct against U.S. Sailing and to return to U.S. Sailing its trade secrets.
What? Trade secrets.
And confidential and proprietary information that defendants unlawfully continue to possess and use.
How could that be?
It's got to be a total and utter nonsense.
It's a public organization.
And they want to go to trial, a jury trial.
And spend a lot of money.
In a court in Rhode Island. Somebody has lost the plot up in Bristol, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Now let's see what the other comments are. Ron Sherry, listen to this. I read a bit earlier. Rhea Legato. Hello, Rhea. This is like when Rugby Andy destroyed World Sailing in 20. This is, I mean, who's going to give money now to U.S. Sailing on any basis? Tax deductible money to the whatever foundation, to U.S. Sailing to support the U.S. Sailing team. How about these poor Olympic athletes who are sitting there like the team that Jay Rendell has been raising money for, that we're going to help raise money for, this team I wanted to feature on today's show before this madness came up.
Right.
This is an opportunity cost for them because now we're talking about this important matter. I mean, it is an important matter, instead of about that team that's just won the 470 trials and hopefully will go qualify now for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Rugby Andy destroyed World Sailing. I warned you about the non-sailing CEO. I said I'm going to wait and see how he does. I know he's being paid approaching $300,000 a year. You look askance. But when I told you that before we went to air today, I have a copy of all of the salaries from last year that somebody sent me anonymously. I don't like anonymous stuff.
Yeah.
So I haven't published them. But I can tell you that the non-sailing CEO of a minor sport, we are a niche sport, is making high $300,000 salary with a staff of 50 people. Okay, maybe it's 45 by now. And I have had phone calls I'm not going to name any names, from people this morning, which again kept me from getting this show prepared, because you got to talk to people and see what the sources are. People are furious because of what is going to be the other fallout.
Yeah, I mean, this is an Olympic year.
And to say nothing of the fact, exactly, Julia, that last year, back up to Tokyo. A year before the Tokyo Olympics, U.S. Sailing fired an esteemed coach, decided he wasn't doing the job. A year before the Olympics, Malcolm Payne from Australia.
Yes.
Sent him packing, didn't have a coach. And you're an Olympic sailor, and you say, what? Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. So they sent him before the Olympics in 2021. Got CARD organized. CARD came in, kind of went over and watched the stuff going on, and then he had a debrief afterwards. And by the way, the debrief, I can tell you the debrief, the debrief was a Zoom call. Somebody sent me a recording of that Zoom call. And it's on that Zoom call that Paul Caird is alleged to have been abusive to sailors and talked down to them or something. And I'll tell you what, I've watched the thing several times, twice, and zipped through it a third time. And if that's an abusive, Julia's been more abusive to me, sitting here in the studio with pleasure. I mean, Cairns, the head coach, and he's trying to get people to shape up. And, you know, if you don't shape up, you're going to ship out. He didn't swear at anybody. He didn't talk down to anybody. He wasn't, he was certainly not sexist or misogynist. I mean, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. This was in my opinion, and I've only seen what I'm seeing so far, this looks like a control and authority issue with the leadership at U.S. Sailing versus the former leadership.
It just seems to me to be a giant waste of money.
Huh? You think?
I mean, that's what's criminal about it.
No,
Well,
look.
even if it were all true,
Yes.
all we do is strip current and future resources away from the sport.
It's just, I mean, the other countries must, first of all, be feeling really sorry for our Olympic athletes because no one would wish this.
No.
And they must also be having some schadenfreude and say, oh, you know, the U.S. is screwed for another quadrennium or two or three.
Yeah.
How many, Bill Canfield asked the right question. I'll tell you one other thing. I am on the panel that votes for the Yachtsman and Yachtswoman of the Year, Rolex Yachtsman and Yachtswoman of the Year. That vote is a private vote, and I was today going to put the names, the six, there are 3 women, 3 men. I was going to put to you, the Fozzie, and for guidance. It would be my vote. I'd make up my mind in the end. As a journalist, as somebody who follows the sport, I used to chair the Rolex Yachtsman and Yachtswoman of the Year back when I was executive director of U.S. Sailing in the 80s for 6 years. And we have a vote on Thursday. We have a conference call tomorrow among those who vote, and it's people like Gary Jobson and other journalists and other, senior serious people. Mark Reed, who's a Fozzie, is one of the voters. Craig Luke, Scuttlebutt, is one of the voters, and these are senior serious people. When I get off the air here, I'm going to send an email to U.S. Sailing saying I respectfully decline. I'm withdrawing from the committee because I'm not going to be a part. It's too bad for the sailors because I think my voice, I think I have a reasonable view and
Why
a reasoned
are you doing
view.
that?
Because I just can't get myself enthused to go help U.S. Sailing with anything at this point. And I think there's going to be sadly, there's going to be a lot of other people feeling the same way. As Bill Canfield is saying, how many members will this cost them? Now, look at these people, a lot of people who are volunteers in U.S. Sailing must be crushed as well. The board, probably half the board are crushed. These people have got hearts of gold, most of them probably. So, Stingray, we're not going to take up pitchforks. We're not going to go up and take, this is a sad case, and we need to try to persuade U.S. Sailing to come to their senses, like Long Beach Yacht Club.
Why can't the report that you're declining include that? And
No, I'm just going to wash my hands of it. I'm not going to go on this call tomorrow because my blood will boil. And there's plenty of other journalists on there, and I hope they come to the right conclusion. And frankly, I can't be bothered. I'm just that upset about it. Okay? So if I'm being Curtonic, then I apologize in advance. Canfield is saying, how many members will this cost them? Indeed. Bill Cook saying, trade secrets?
I know.
Trade secrets?
Yeah.
Pedro Foiling Sailor saying, some lawyers will sail and have to eat too. We need to support all the people in our community. I'm glad there's somebody who's got some, Ms. Clayton, Alan Embley. That's a great point that Ed Worley is making. What was his point up above? Is U.S. Sailing trying to monopolize and control the Olympic sailors? Well, obviously they are. But, Leandro Spina, I had a text just before we went to air from a senior serious person in this country who knows Leandro well. I've met him, but I don't know him well. And the kid is a hell of a good coach. He's not a kid. I mean, he's 30, whatever he is. Great guy, great coach. The sailors love him. And he's being enjoined, apparently they've already tried to get, if they haven't already succeeded, they're trying to get him to stop going and helping the Olympic athletes down in Miami before, during, and after the Olympic trials because he's associated with CARD and is getting money from America One. I mean, excuse me.
Who's hurting whom? Yeah.
Wow, it sounds delusional, Morris Steve. Well, tell if anybody, I've been wrong before. Tell me if anybody on here thinks I'm wrong. And I'm happy to read your comment. So Kehart stole their secrets. How about how not to run an organization? Anfield says. Hi, Block Island Steve. Nice to see you on here. U.S. Sailing is doing a good job harming their own reputation. Only winners here are the lawyers. The athletes and sailors are the big losers. Great point, Block Island Steve. Bobby Steele. So close to the Olympics. This will harm everyone involved. Settle, not win in any lawsuit.
And tomorrow afternoon, please.
I mean, why would you even file the lawsuit? Why wouldn't you send a hard letter and say, hey, we think you guys are overstepping your bounds. Come back and help us. Let's sit down and try to agree on how we're going to do this.
Let's win a few medals.
Control freaks. Denise Balzac's got it. Denise, I think you hit the nail on the head with 2 words. What? Jeff Kitson saying this is BS. IMO, in my opinion, this is due to not. Yeah, well, the non-sailing CEO is trying to assert his authority and show quien es más macho. Graham Sweeney, my Bank of Shetland is here and waiting. If you want to take American racing as a charity offshore, I won't tell a soul. Brendan Larrabee. Hi, Brendan. He's been on. A couple other comments earlier. Pretty sure the key employee at nonprofit salaries is public knowledge. But I had the whole salary, Brendan. I had the whole salary list that somebody who was unhappy within the staff, I assume, sent it. I don't think somebody else. Greg Dare saying thanks for covering. Bill Cook. Hi, Bill the Cook. You had a comment earlier. Not to mention what they did to exactly. Bill Cook. Not only did they cashier Malcolm Payne, but also Greg Fisher, who they promoted, and then Greg Fisher, who I grew up with in the Midwest, great sailor. Thistles, Flying Scots, Lightnings. His dad was a great sailing family. His wife, his ex-wife, yada, yada. And he was the coach for a long time at the College of Charleston. They hired him away to help with the Olympic program, tried to promote him up. And then he could figure out what was going on and what a screwed up organization U.S. Sailing is. And he left, Greg Fisher. And Bill Cook is absolutely right, not to mention what they did to Greg. Okay. I don't want to repeat any more of these comments unless U.S. governing body is now acting like our presidential candidates, Crutonic. Bing Bong, FR U.S. Sailing Whack. I don't know what you mean, Bing Bong. I know who Bing Bong is, by the way. That's why I'm reading his comments. Jody Shields, the whole thing stinks of blame shifting, cover-up of a bigger... Yeah, I think, Jody, you are right, too. I think they're just so short of money that they... Almost as whack as not inviting Ian. Okay, Bing Bong. What else? Vote with your feet. I think a lot of people are going to leave the organization. And Phil laughing, thank you. I'm not going to go help U.S. Sailing with anything. That organization has to change. I feel bad if I don't like to talk about stuff and complain about stuff and not go do something about it.
I agree.
And you and I have had this discussion, and if I were 10 years younger, I would go try to put a slate together, go run for office, take over the organization. But it needs to be somebody who is well off, whose family is, my family's behind me now. Meg's 31. I don't have to worry about raising kids. But somebody who's well off, who is current active racing more so than I.
Yeah.
And besides, with this megaphone, Julia, that you and I have, we can help somebody that does go in and tries to clean out the place, because this is Crutonicism at a major level. John, okay. If we couldn't laugh, we'd all be in tears. Yep, Rick Bannerl, I agree. Time to start a new organization. We just got to reform U.S. Sailing. U.S. Sailing, we got to go in there. The president's got to go. The non-sailing CEO's got to go.
Julia Aarons is saying absolutely the right thing. U.S. Sailing doesn't know how to use volunteers.
Yep. And you, Julia, having headed up one of the biggest, helped head up one of the biggest volunteer organizations. What was the name of that organization?
National Center for Voluntary Action.
Based in Washington, D.C. So you know something about volunteers. Yeah, Denise, I'm young. I'm a hopefully youngish 70, but still, this needs young people to go in there. This is a 10-year project, not a 2-year project. I just got a letter asking for a donation for what? Lawyers? Well, and the dues went up. I heard from another longtime senior, in fact, former staffer as well, this morning saying, we're all headed to Florida next week. They've got this leadership forum in a week or two down in wherever it is.
Yeah.
or is it in Charleston, wherever it is, and they've raised the prices and things they used to make available to people and sponsors and industry types that were, sorry, this thing has come a cropper. This thing has come a cropper. So yeah, you can go back. In a nutshell, again, if you're just joining us, in this action, U.S. Sailing seeks judgment against each of the defendants. That means Kayard, Bill Rue, and Leandro Spina and America One Racing, recovery of its damages, which are in excess of $5 million, plus 2 punitive damages, exemplary damages, and reimbursement of attorney's fees and costs incurred by U.S. Sailing in this act. I mean, U.S. Sailing has already spent how much money on this alone? Just filing this complaint.
Yeah.
John Woodruff, I nominate Mark Hollerback from Detroit to run as CEO. The first thing you got to do is go in and clean out the volunteers on that board. And the structure in the organization is wrong because at the end of the day, unless and until the yacht clubs go take back control, the yacht clubs, the class associations, meaning the sailors, at the grassroots. But the yacht clubs used to have control via what are called CSAs, communities, well, not CSAs, regional RSAs, regional sailing associations. We just call them YRAs, yacht racing associations. And the clubs, for instance, here in San Francisco Bay was the YRA of San Francisco Bay, Yacht Racing Association. All the clubs were members. They elected people. Those people went to the national governing body, to the national meetings and said, here's how we do it on San Francisco Bay. And then the people from the Chesapeake would say, here's how we do it. Those of us from Michigan would say, here's how we do it on the ponds in Michigan. And everybody came together. You traded good information and best practices, and it was fantastic. It was a fantastic organization. And now no longer. It's all centralized in Bristol, Rhode Island. The staff does everything. They have a CEO who is ostensibly in charge and a very small, tight-knit executive committee, board of directors who are approving the budget and basically hiring and firing the CEO, the non-sailing CEO. This is Croutonicism, in my never so humble opinion, of epic proportions. Sorry. John Hanfield, final comments here. Unless U.S. Sailing gets a CEO like Brad Reed, it's dead. Brad Reed, who is the esteemed executive director of Sail Newport. And, interestingly, this will be good for organizations like Dawn Riley's Oak Cliff,
right,
or Brad Reed's Sail Newport, or other, because people give money to that. And by the way, what's different? What's the difference between America One giving money to Olympic athletes and helping support coaches than what Dawn Riley does with Oak Cliff doing the same thing?
Yeah, and she does it because nobody else was doing it.
Well, exactly. And she does it well.
Yes, she does.
And she raises the money well. And I've talked to Dawn. Dawn wouldn't touch U.S. Sailing with a proverbial 10-foot pole if she had one.
Yeah.
Same for Brad Reed. And he's a hockey player. He's too smart. He wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot hockey stick, I guarantee you. Rick Bannerow, for Yachtsman of the Year, your input and voice is crucial. It isn't helping U.S. Sailing. It is directing your wisdom. Yeah, you and Julia,
I agree with that.
think I ought to do it. Okay, based on, I won't do a Fozzie poll, but based on the advice of my esteemed co-host here and Rick Bannerow and others, I will follow through, go on the meeting tomorrow, listen to what everybody says, give my opinion to all of those assembled on the Zoom call, and then I'll vote on Thursday. Then I will wash my hands. Are you happy now, Julia?
I am happier, yes.
Denise Balzac, difference is jealousy. I think they're just, follow the money. Follow the money. Clayton Allen Embley, I was on the fence about renewing because I like teaching. I think I will move on to ASTA, American that's ATSA, American Sail Training. Oh, he does mean ASTA, American Sail Training Association. Stingray, Kayard for sure pulled away Olympics funding sponsors, but I can't see how that was illegal. Exactly, Stingray. I mean, it wasn't that he pulled them away, Stingray. It's that when he got fired or got just, when he left, everybody else left too, because they knew without his leadership why you'd be
information,
and information you'd be spending, sending good money after bad, bad money after good. U.S. Sailing were expecting to roll in and asset strip, do enough to make themselves look good, then claim poverty to get the charity cash rolling in. They consider America one as a rival that must be squashed. Graham Sweet, you guys are also smart.
God.
Now Hanfield's telling me don't vote. Now I'm going to be persuaded by Julia, and thank you, John Hanfield, but I'll go do the vote and then I'll be done. All very sad, and Emmett knows, he's from a functional society, from the UK, from the RYA.
Mm-hmm.
He knows too well how all this works. If your athletes aren't getting, last comment, Andrew Dolly DeVola, if your athletes aren't getting help and funding from U.S. Sailing, they get it where they can. And I will pledge you this, Julia. You and I, in this show, will redouble our efforts with Jay Rendell and others to try to raise money for these athletes that are just getting.
Yeah. All I have to do
They're getting screwed with a capital F, as I used to say in the America's Cup.
have to remind ourselves who's the only medal that the U.S. got last time
Yeah.
was financed by himself.
Well, that was 2016, not even last time.
Oh, yeah.
We were medalists last time. Medal S.
Yeah.
Less.
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 That's correct.
And that is also correct too. Who was our last medalist?
Mm-hmm.
He's from San Diego. He got the Finn sailor, Caleb Payne.
Yeah.
And he got himself organized. He said, I'll get my own coach. I'll raise my own money. He's from Southwestern Yacht Club. He got money from San Diego Yacht
That's
Club.
who was from Southwestern Yacht
He
Club.
got money from St. Francis Sailing Foundation and others.
Mm-hmm.
I'd pay to see Tom busking with a banjo. Graham Sweet, he said. Okay, well, I'm going to vote. I'm sorry. I was going to put it to the Fosey to see who you Americans, well, anybody who you thought were the most deserving of our
Well, you're not going
6
to
candidates.
deny them that opportunity.
Yeah, I think, because I don't have the list in front of me and I don't want to carry on about that. I'm fussed enough. Let's move on, shall we? We haven't even done John Emmett's report yet.
Uh-oh.
John Emmett, who is, he stayed off the beach. He's not doing a walkabout after getting injured. He is on the couch surfing in Mar del Plata. John Emmett, Coach's Corner for today.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey. Really nice to join you today from the safety of the sofa. So not very likely to get run over or anything else here. Although you may be able to tell, I'm slightly in the wars again, so maybe I'll talk about that later. I don't want to start a new drinking game, which is guess what's wrong with John's face. But having a lovely time out here in Mar del Plata. Things couldn't be more welcoming. I mean, everywhere we go, everyone's really, really kind, really, really helpful. And, I think probably learned a few things from the first championships with the Women's World Championships. They've now got both clubs up, so open. So there's nearly 200 boats. We have a lot more slipways. And I think they're going to be bringing people to start doing video and all sorts. It just feels nothing really happened on those sort of first few days until people realise there's a problem. Then everyone works very, very hard to solve them. And I say I'm really pleased that we're going to South America. It's interesting here actually to see several of the ILCA 7 sailors are either racing the regatta themselves or coaching. It's a really popular venue and certainly learning a lot. And I think one of the big things, and I'll do this one quickly now in case people haven't guessed, is when you've got the Vang full on with the composite lower mast, you have to be very careful to duck. So personally, I was concerned about hitting my head or my buoyancy aid on the boom, which can often lead to a capsize on the short beat to the finish. And in the big waves, it becomes, or swell, it becomes much harder to do those tacks. And the effort not to hit the boom or get stuck or whatever, I literally nose butted the deck. And I've done it before. I've done it before. It's one of those things. The key thought is if you keep your weight forward in the cockpit, there's slightly more space there. But behind the scenes, I am encouraging the class to go to a composite boom, so we have a boom that saves straighter and will make that area to get through on a maximum Vang tack a little bit easier. But enough about me. I was very interested in the youth championships. I see a young Italian sailor is doing very well, maybe another name to watch for future. I won't try and butcher the pronunciation, but my interest is obviously with the 5 lovely lads from the UK. It's rather disappointing, actually, that there's no female sailors from the UK out. But I think a lot of the things that are apparent for the youth sailing, it's the same wherever you are. And I think, you know, you say worlds or whatever, and that puts a lot of stress, and people make mistakes or get worried in a way that they wouldn't do in training. So this idea is, you know, train like you race like you train, and you know, if you train hard, you'll win easy. And that's why having really big or really strong, I should say, training groups are very important, and to get that balance between the base where you're doing all that fitness work, boat speed work, and racing. And it's very easy, you know, for people in conditions where they're fast to absolutely nail the so-called training regattas, unimportant regattas. And then when you put the pressure on, you've got all those fast boats, then suddenly the decision making becomes more important, and you can have some pretty good results not being the fastest boat in the fleet if you get your head out the boat. But boat speed does make you a tactical genius. And going back to the Women's Worlds, it was that day 2, or rather the final day of Goldfleet, where those last 3 races, which would have been F3, F4 and F5, that was a standout performance for Charlotte Rose, which is, I think, you know, why I said I think that's Olympic potential, because it's that style of racing. For the youth, my advice, and it's the same advice I keep on giving myself, is, you know, but relax, but focus. It's about controlled aggression, and I have my little routine: get to the boat park every day, launch at the same time every day. In fact, Blessing Mill College has been helping me launch, and you know, I make sure I always come back with spare food and with spare water, because we're always, you know, hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. We had it, you know, where it was a very long sail in, or it takes a long time to get back in the harbour, or just, you know, races get abandoned. You're suddenly on a three race schedule, and the wind can change. I think already in this championships we've raced in nearly every single direction. But yeah, it's funny. No sooner has the regatta started, and I'm already getting the notifications. It's less than a week before I'm in Adelaide, so I'll try and keep you posted. Probably one more here on my sofa in Mar del Plata, which is where I spent a lot of my evenings. Not sure I'm going to make it onto the show, because we keep on having quite late finishes, but hopefully you enjoy the report anyway. And questions, really happy to answer. For me, I think this is just one of the nicest events I've done in a long time, and I can't wait to take the cover off each morning.
Okay, that's John's report for today. I'm sorry for having some bandwidth problems. I'm just looking at the stats. It's been a little herky-jerky on the video. I think the audio's going through okay, but apologize if we are having some problems. But John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet, his normal, usual report. And he's racing, by the way. He's up in the top 10 somewhere. I looked at the standings, but we'll see how he's doing and report more on Friday. We all love your reports, John. That from Ted Ryman. And Julia, as we get to wrapping this show up.
Yes.
This day in history, the 16th of January, 1493. Here's your first
The
clue.
day after Columbus arrived in America.
Close, but 1493. You mean the year after?
Yeah.
1493. There's your first clue. Bing Bong. I think he had a heads up on this one. Columbus returns. Returns where, Bing Bong? Julia? There are Columbus's 4 voyages back and forth. And, you know, he knew he had to go south to come over in the trades, and then to go north to come back.
Yeah.
How did he know that?
Somebody told him.
He knew that because his wife was Portuguese. And his wife, because of Prince Henry the Navigator and some of these others, had figured that out in their back and forths that never were all that successful, but they knew further north was the way to come back, or so I read today. David James, yes, they left for Spain. He left for Spain. That is there was another clue there. Cristoforo Colombo. It was on this day that he left to return home. The New World set sail for Spain, and with him he took. It was an earth-shaking thing because he brought the New World back to the Old World, including the Old World to the New World, disease and everything else. Mm-hmm. Some good news and some bad news for all concerned. Yeah, there's a statue Stingray is saying of him at Port Vell. Yeah, it's the big Christopher Columbus circle right there in Barcelona. And we have Columbus Avenue here in San Francisco, right, Julia?
Yep.
Over in North Beach, which is Little Italy.
It actually diagonally dissects the city. Well,
at least the northeastern corner of the city.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what happened on this day in history, 16 January 1493. Gets us to the last leg. And again, another one of these things I wanted to cover in a little more detail was the RORC's transatlantic race in these trimarans. And maybe, Columbus, Ohio, Graham Sweeney's saying, a lot of Columbuses. Mm-hmm. And we will cover this perhaps in more detail on Friday. But the ROC's Transat race down to Grenada has finished, and here is a video.
Sailing a Mod 70 is an experience that it's very hard to replicate in any other setting. It's just a really exhilarating experience to travel that fast over the water, just kind of pure adrenaline. So getting to do it for 3,000 miles across the Atlantic, it's a thrill the whole time.
Well, these boats are incredible, frankly, and especially now that we've put foils on the boat, they're so powerful. Blasting across the Atlantic is just amazing. It's a dream, but it's not easy. By no means.
Tough one, tough mentally at times. There was some illness on board. That was a challenge, and the last 2 days of the race were quite rough and conditions that we really hadn't seen before. So we weren't quite sure how to mode the boat, how to keep things safe and under control.
Kind of aimed for the transatlantic race win in the past, and we came up short. And so it's pretty cool that this year we added that to our resume. It's a big challenge in sailing, and it's great to have a race win crossing the Atlantic.
They're great racers, they're very good people, they're friends before they're competitors. We've been sailing against Argo in a number of different categories for a number of years. What did JFK say? We're not doing it because it's easy, we're doing it because it's hard. I think the same applies here. That's why we're trying to do our program together with Argo, because the point is being together and possibly with other mods so we can have a proper race. And we lose most of the time, but that's okay. It's part of it.
To finish the race, everybody has to perform at 100% for 7 days straight. On Argo, we tend to see the helming position as one that you take a few minutes to kind of settle into and get up to speed, and then after an hour or so, you are exhausted. And so we usually have about an hour cycle on, and particularly at night, it is a very tiring experience, and you lose your focus after about 45 minutes or an hour. And so we think it's best for us to just continue to rotate drivers.
We went through a significant upgrade to the boat just before this Transat. We were in refit period for 6 months. We had some new foils and new T-rollers fitted. Left the shed, delivered straight down to the start of the race. So the race was our playground to kind of get to know these new foils. It's a pretty steep learning curve, is the honest truth.
We probably had similar problems than in the past that they had on this trip. But I think it's just a little bit of a learning curve, and they'll pick it up and make a couple little adjustments, and it'll be all great for them.
I think what we did for the last 2 days is cut down on the distance between them and us. I think we'll try and emulate this and continue on that path.
We love Team Zulu. Look forward to meeting them again in the Caribbean 600. We'll probably do more jibes in 30 hours in the Caribbean 600 than we did in the entire 7 days we did in the transatlantic race. We'll bring our best, and I hope they do too.
We do have the race title to defend last year, so 11 seconds was pretty unique. So yeah, all to play for.
Good stuff. Congratulations to the RORC. I see former Admiral of the RORC, Andrew McIrvin, our FOSI. Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin is on. He's saying, the boats, they had a rather light race, and they didn't have the normal trades, northeasterly trades, and a lot of the boats went well south this year Andrew is saying. And there were a couple of women
Can you imagine
on a boat that led one of the teams. It was cool stuff, and we will do a little follow-up on that on Friday. Bravo Zulu to the RORC on the 10th anniversary of their Transat race here in 2024 gets us to the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot segment, Julia.
Yes.
And you've heard about all these plane problems.
Mm-hmm.
The Boeing, we talked about that on the show last time, the 737 MAX, and I think Jonathan Frank told us a little bit about it. Well, this was sent in by Peter Taylor. Some parts may be missing. IKEA. That's an IKEA ad. You know, you get all that stuff from IKEA. And you're never sure if it's all there. I think IKEA now includes a couple extra of most, but that came in from Peter Taylor in the USA.
That's lovely.
I mean, they grounded a lot of those planes.
All of them.
And, you know, Stingray worked for them. We could probably put an authoritative panel discussion here between Jonathan Frank and Stingray and Joe Holtzman, who used to work in the aerospace business.
Yeah.
Ha, 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 Ed Worley is saying. Here's one. This came from Holtzman, speaking of Joe. There are two options. You take down the squirrel baffle, and I eat your bird seed, or I eat the power line and take down your internet. Apropos the problems we're having today with internet connection. I'm sorry again about that. It does seem, I see one of my stats. It's not software, it's not hardware here, but there's something with our internet connection is croutonic. And then a bunch of you sent us this one. Valentine's Day next month. You must all be watching the same Facebook page, the meme site. What will I buy the boat this year? What do you think, Julia?
I think it's very manly.
Huh? Come on, it's cool.
It is.
It's cool. Okay, that gets us to the finish line. Thank you all very much for this hour and 42 minutes that you've been with us and us with you. Julia, your witness.
It was a great day. And lots of questions for us to answer or try to answer, and lots of stuff to go forward with. So,
indeed. And thank you for that, everybody. Comments are welcome too, even in replay, those of you watching it in replay. Thanks for your support, those of you who got some new ones that are giving us a few bucks a month via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Become a patron. Give us a few bucks a month. It does help keep us and this studio and our internet connection, which I now have to check after the show and see what is going on with our internet connection. I see it's well down below our normal 40,000 kilobits. 40 megabits per second upload speed is our normal speed.
Right.
Thank you all for the support. Thank you to everybody who gave us video, audio, and images for today's show. Julia, any other thoughts?
No, not really.
Thank you very much for your continued. You look great in that purple, by the way. It goes nicely with Jonathan Frank's photo over your shoulder.
Keep it.
And the scarf and everything. Ed Worley wanting to know if we can ask Card to come on the show. No, sure he will not. I will ask him, Ed, but I'm guarantee you that as long as this is in litigation, he isn't going to come on the show and talk about it. Greg Phillips, looking forward to seeing John Emmett in Adelaide, because John, after he leaves Argentina finally after this week, I think he has to go back to London just to get cheap plane flights, and then he goes on to Oz, to Australia for that. Joe Holtzman, it's been an interesting show, great as usual. Hang in there. Yeah, all of you, thank you for your support. Thank you for your interest. And we hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week. And if you can, go sailing, do it. And sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.